بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. أما بعد. Yesterday, Alhamdulillah, we finished speaking of the greater portion of the first part of the kitab. As we know, the book is split into two parts. Those things, how we should organize our day with, the awrad, the adhkar, the remembrances, and how we should organize our life. And so we have covered that to the greatest extent. And then I told you my sentiments that this is what I really wanted to cover during Ramadan, so that throughout Ramadan we could experience, as we experience the month, we can experience the ideal day, how we should live that day for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rest of the first portion of the kitab, and the kitab is two portions. Second portion talks about leaving out sin, which I do hope to start very briefly. The rest of the first portion of the kitab talks about the etiquettes of salah. So we will talk about that briefly, but then later Imam al-Ghazali just mentions how salah is done. And so he's not really talking about the spiritual aspects, just more so of the fiqh aspect, how to stand properly, how to do the proper ruku', sujood, what to recite in different stages in the salah itself. So I think that we can go ahead and skip that. And then Imam al-Ghazali will speak about the etiquettes of imama and leading salah, some etiquettes in that regard. So we'll also go over that, meaning we'll skip over that, inshallah, because it's not often that we all lead the salawat. For those who are imams, for those who are leading the community often, they can go ahead and read those portions, very brief as well. Thereafter, he speaks about the etiquettes of Jumu'ah. Again, we can skip that. It's just talking about, cleaning oneself, getting prepared, reciting Surah Al-Kahf, sending salutations upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in abundance, things of that sort. And finally, he does talk about something that I want to highlight and go over, and that is the etiquettes of fasting. Because we find ourselves in Ramadan, it would be a shame that we finish Ramadan and we did not go over the etiquettes of fasting itself. So we're going to briefly talk about the etiquettes, the adab salah, and then we'll skip over to the adab of siyam, inshallah. And thereafter, for the rest of the few days that we have left of Ramadan, inshallah, we'll begin the second portion of the kitab, which is very interesting because that deals with the inner self, the rectification of the spirit, how to create that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as create a connection with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to have good character and how to deal with other people. So inshallah, let's get started with that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to cover as much as we can of the kitab, and may He bless us in what we have already recited and gone over, and give us tawfiq to apply that in our lives. So he starts with adab salah. فإذا فرغت من طهارة الحدث وطهارة الخبث في البدن والثياب والمكان ومن ستر العورة من السرة إلى الركبة فاستقبل القبلة قائما مراوحا بين قدميك. The first thing we have to do is when we have removed the impurity, the spiritual impurity that is upon us because we do not have wudu, or if we require a ghusl, we perform the ghusl. We remove any type of impurities, on physical impurities as well, on the body, the clothes. Our areas must be clean as well. Our bodies must be covered to a certain degree, which is called al-awra. Salah without covering the necessary portions of the body, which differs between men and women. The salah will not count if the absolutely necessary portions are not covered. And for the man, that is from the navel to the knee itself. Different madhahib differ in regards to whether the knees and the navel must be covered or not. The Hanafi madhab states that the navel can be exposed, meaning right below the navel is where we must cover. The Shafi'i madhab says that the navel must also be included. When it comes to the knees, I believe the Shafi'i madhab is that right before the knees, and the Hanafi madhab includes the entirety of the knees. So The clothing must cover all of the knee itself, the entire kneecap. And to be safe and to be in a better condition, we should cover both. So make sure the navel is covered and the entire kneecap is covered at all times. This is your satar for the male. That is the satar, and that is what we should make sure that we cover at all times. In salah, definitely, we don't want to restrict ourselves to only that. We're like, a small cloth or something. We want to dress to the best of our capability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ مَسْجِدٍ. Take upon yourselves beauty when it is time for salah, when it is time for you to do sajda, and it is a place for sajda as well, whether that is in the homes, whether that is in the masajid as well. Make sure that you are extremely beautiful. This applies to males and females. We need to beautify ourselves for salah. We beautify ourselves for everyone else. Why not beautify ourselves for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we are engaging in conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that's what our salah is. It is a conversation between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and us. So he says to cover those portions. Then you stand up straight and you face the qibla and you're getting ready to perform salah. And you should have some space in between your legs. Don't put the feet together, all the way. That's not a natural way of standing either, to stand with the feet touching each other. There should be some distance between the feet. Some scholars go as far as and say there should be this much space, 4 fingers in between the feet. However, it depends ultimately on the individual. If it's a child, then this is a good amount of space. If it's a very large person, then this is a very little amount of space to have 2 feet so close together. So depending on the size of your body, your stature, stand in a comfortable position that displays respect. So the standing of salah is the standing of respect. We're standing in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says, وَقْرَأْ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ تَحَصُّنًا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَأَحْضِرْ قَلْبَكَ. When you are standing, you're getting ready to perform salah, recite Surah An-Nas. So Surah An-Nas is a very powerful surah in which we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the creator of the universe, to protect us from man and from jinn. So he is saying that at the time of salah, when we are performing salah, there are some jinn, some shayateen that will try to cause our concentration to be affected. So to protect ourselves from that, we can recite this surah, which was meant as a protection from all of the wasawis and whispers of the shayateen. So it's a good idea to recite قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ when we're intending to start salah, when we're standing before commencing the salah. And he says, وَأَحْضِرْ قَلْبَكَ, make sure your heart is present. So before even raising the hands for the takbir, before we start, we should ponder over the fact that, I'm about to get started with salah. I need to make sure my heart is there. So take a moment, close your eyes, just stand there facing the qibla, and just think that, what is in my heart at this moment? Am I engaged with my dunya affairs at this moment? Am I so engrossed in that it's going to take me away from the remembrance of Allah? Am I just engaging in salah with my body and not my mind? So take a brief moment to present the heart before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we're standing physically, we're facing the qibla, we're facing the Kaaba Sharifa, and we need to make our hearts face it as well. So the heart does face a direction. This is not a direction in terms of north, south, east, and west, but it's the direction of what it's paying attention to. So we want our heart to pay attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when engaging in salah, not just our face and our bodies facing the direction of the qibla. The heart should be pointed toward the qibla as well. And that is thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should make sure that we do that, present the heart. And one great way to do that is for the Hanafiya, they have this dua. For the Shafi'iyya, they actually recite this dua within the salah itself. So this is called a dua ut-tawajjuh. And that is, we're actually going to get to that, and I'll explain it when we do get to that. So then there's a dua for that as well, to make your mind and your heart join together and get ready to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a very beautiful dua. It's an ayah of the Quran. So he says, recite this surah. وَفَرِغْهُ مِنَ الْوَسَاوِسِ. Remove the wasawis from the heart. Anything that is distracting you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any worries that you may be having, any difficulties that you have experienced in the day, um, whatever it may be, remove that. Or something that you're expecting to do after the salah, don't think about that. Try your best to remove these thoughts from the heart and make that heart completely only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he is warning us, he's saying that be cautious, be aware who you are standing in front of. Be very cautious and be aware who you are speaking to. You should have, you should be embarrassed and ashamed that you would be speaking to your master with a heart that is not, fully paying attention to him. Remember, if we're talking to someone at any time and our phone starts to ring and we pull out our phone and we're listening to the person, but we're looking at our phone, we're checking our texts, then that is quite rude, because this person is speaking to us. We should fully engage with them. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would speak, then he wouldn't even turn sideways. He would turn his entire body towards the person and speak with the person with full attention with his body as well. So when we talk to people, we pull out our phone, we start, engaging in other things and multitasking while we're talking. That's actually seen as a sign of being very rude and not being considerate to the person that is speaking with us. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see us physically, and he sees the condition of our heart. He knows what we are thinking in our minds. He knows what we are thinking and believing in our hearts. So if we stand and we're facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my heart is busy with school, or my heart is busy with work, or my heart is busy with family, or my heart is busy with what I'm going to do after salah, how I'm going to relax, who I'm supposed to meet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees that. That is much worse than if someone came to speak to us and we pull out a phone and start multitasking in front of that person. So we need to be very careful. So he's saying, be ashamed that if you speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a heart that is not present. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see our heart, we have to make sure that heart is fully aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can really see this in Taraweeh. When we stand in Taraweeh, because of the long rak'at, our minds start to wander. So when we gain the ability to know that our mind is wandering, like your mind starts to wander and you may not know of it. And then after some time, you start being aware, like, wow, my mind is completely somewhere else. Then bring it back. That will be forgiven because it was unintentional. But if we keep letting our minds be unaware, we start entertaining thoughts, we start purposefully thinking things, then that means that we are turning our heart away from the qibla. So just like, our salah will not count. If we turn completely away from the qibla, the salah is gone. If you turn more than 45 degrees away from the qibla, the salah won't count anymore. The same way, the spiritual salah, if we turn that heart away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completely, spiritually, we will be deprived of the benefit of that salah. So the salah will count, inshallah, your salah is done. But really, we want the benefit of the salah as well. So have the heart completely facing the qibla, which is paying attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's saying, be ashamed if your heart is not facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَصَدْرٍ مَشْحُونٍ بِوَسَاوِسِ الدُّنْيَا وَخَبَائِثِ الشَّهَوَاتِ. Be very cautious that your chest, your heart is not filled with the worries of dunya and the filth of your own desires. So we have to stand there for a moment and wait and remove all of this before starting the takbir. Now imagine what kind of spiritual station Imam al-Ghazali is expecting us to be in, what we should do before we engage our salah. Oftentimes we just walk up to where we have to pray salah, just lift our hands and we're in salah. And we don't realize that, I'm speaking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I need to take a moment and I need to just take a breath and really think about who I'm speaking to. And so I actually have one of my teachers, he's elderly. I used to watch him when he used to come to the masjid, and all the students used to look at him from far, and he wouldn't notice, but he would be standing in one corner of the masjid, and I would see him just like this for, I could actually count a minute, sometimes a minute or 2 minutes, him just standing like this. He didn't engage in salah, he's just standing quietly, and facing the qibla, and we're just watching, and then we're like, subhanallah, he's bringing his heart to face the qibla. So that is a spiritual exercise that we need to do. Completely think about where is my mind, where is my heart at this moment, and really bring it in. And then I would see him, he would engage in that salah. So he was very particular about his salah. And that is, one of the signs of the awliya, that they don't take salah lightly. It's not a burden for them. It is an act of ibadah. So we need to take our salah, transform it to something that we do ritually, something that we do habitually, into something that it transforms us, that connects us with Allah. Remember, it's our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's more than just a habit. It's more than just something that we do here and there. We have to have the presence of heart as well. So that is a spiritual salah, to have presence of heart in the beginning and throughout the salah itself. He further talks to us and he says, وَعَلَمْ أَنَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلْ مُطَّلِعٌ عَلَى سَرِيرَتِكَ وَنَاظِرٌ إِلَى قَلْبِكَ. You should know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to see your secrets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see your inner self. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly aware and watching the state of your heart. It's not just when we're in salah. At all times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching everyone's heart at every moment. And so when a person ponders over this, they feel overwhelmed that not only me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that's in my heart, everything's in my mind, but of all of the creation, and not of just humans, jinn, not of just human and jinn, all animals as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is happening throughout the universe. وَإِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ صَلَاتَكَ بِقَدْرِ خُشُوعِكَ وَتَوَاضُعِكَ وَخُضُوعِكَ وَتَضَرُّعِكَ. So he's saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept your salah in accordance, percentage-wise, according to how much khushu', how much fear you have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how much devotion, how much humility you have in that salah, your tawadu', your humility, how much, how humble you are, how fearful you are of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment, how hopeful you are of his reward, and how much you are engaged in that salah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will actually look, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees our heart, and he can see, obviously, he knows exactly how aware we are in that salah. So in one salah and one jama'ah, you may have one person whose heart is just completely gone, is not even there. He gets the bare minimum reward of salah. There could be another person who's halfway there, they're trying. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give them a much higher reward. Then there could be another person in that jama'ah who has just so much connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so much humility, so much fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that salah, and then they're going to get so much more reward. So the reward for salah, one thing is we do it so that we don't get the sin of missing the salah, and we fulfill the obligation. So you will definitely get the reward. Remember, for every action that we do, we get a minimum of 10 rewards and a maximum of 700 to more than that based off of the ikhlas. There's no real maximum. It's according to the level of a person's closeness and presence of heart. So we're going to get the reward, inshallah, of salah. You won't get the sin, but you want the highest level of reward. Imagine a person is getting 10 rewards. Another person is getting 700 rewards for that salah. In the hereafter, that person is definitely going to be profiting. Is going to have a lot of ribh, a lot of profit, inshallah. So he's saying that this is what we should do before we engage in salah. Then he says, فَعْبُدْهُ فِي صَلَاتِكَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ وَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you can see him. If you can't see him, then he definitely sees you. What does this mean, worship Allah as if you can see him? We cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We never have seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only in the hereafter we will be able to have the gift of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is something we should make dua for, because it's a huge ni'mah. It's one of the greatest thing that a person can have, is to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not just the vision. Just imagine like what would be going through a person when they're blessed with the vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It wouldn't even be just a vision with the eyes. It would just, your entire body would be just in awe of the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How that will be. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond understanding. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not confined to time and space. So like how it will happen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But we believe in the fact that we will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. But when it comes time for salah, Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if you can see. What does that mean? That means that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at me, and He is, how would I behave? If I'm fully aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at me, how would I behave at that moment? And the feeling that I'm being watched, that is the kayfiyah, the feeling, the situation that we should be in. We should lower our head and imagine that right now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always looking at me, but in salah especially, we should be aware. فَإِن لَمْ يَحْضُرْ قَلْبُكَ فَهَذَا لِقُصُورِ مَعْرِفَتِكَ بِجَلَالِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. He says, if you're unable to have your heart present, if the heart is not present, and he says the root of that, the reason for that is because we don't have enough understanding of who Allah is. If we fully understood who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was, we would never even not think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because according to how much we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to how much we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and according to how much we obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is how much we will be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only in salah, but throughout our day. So some people will be fully aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the entire day, 24/7. And some people not so much. But it's according to how much we sacrifice to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through worship. So the more worship we do, the more ma'rifah and understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open up for us. So now he's going to give an example. Again, Imam al-Ghazali, what he does is he speaks to us according to our understanding and not according to his depth of understanding. فقدر أن رجلا صالحا من وجوه أهل بيتك ينظر إليك ليعلم كيف صلاتك وعند ذلك يحضر قلبك وتسكن جوارحك. He's saying that if you cannot imagine that you are being watched by Allah, if that doesn't stop you from your heart wandering around, then imagine a very pious person from your family, the greatest person in your entire family that you can imagine, whether that is your father, your grandfather, whether that is your mother, whether that is someone that you just have the utmost amount of respect for in your entire family. Just imagine that person is just sitting there watching you. This is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not allowed to imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of a physical being. So he's saying, imagine a person that you highly respect. And it might not even be your parent, someone that you highly respect, your teacher, your leader, whoever that may be. And they're looking at you and they're examining your salah. The way I lift my hands, they're about to watch, they're just looking at me. I'm in a test right now and they're looking at my salah. So when that happens, and when we think about that, suddenly our heart is present. If we do that, then our heart will be present. And then our body parts are calm. We lift them slowly. We're very cautious. We don't move very quickly in the salah. Everything seems to fall into place. When we perform salah by ourselves, perhaps there are times where we do it sloppy. Someone comes in the room, suddenly we're standing straight. We're doing our ruku, sujood properly. So he's saying, if that is happening, then come back to yourself. Just take a moment and do this exercise where we're imagining someone else watching us and see how you behave in the salah. Then come back to yourself and say, أَلَا تَسْتَحْيِي مِنْ خَالِقِكَ وَمَوْلَاكَ. Tell yourself that, are you not ashamed of your Lord and your Master and the one who created you? إِذْ قَدَّرْتِ اطلاع عبد ذليل من عباده عليك. All you did was you imagined a poor person amongst the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abd dhalil, every one of the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of Allah were absolutely nothing. So when we imagine some other person, suddenly I have khushu', I have concentration in my salah. وَلَيْسَ بِيَدِهِ ضَرُّكَ وَلَا نَفْعُكَ. And this person who you imagined, they cannot harm you in the least. They cannot benefit you in the least. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that power. خَشَعَتْ جَوَارِحُكَ. However, despite this person being weak themselves, this person being that will succumb to death, that succumbs to hunger and pain and all of these defects, we suddenly became very fearful, and we suddenly became very attentive in our salah when we imagined them. وَحَسُنَتْ صَلَاتُكَ, and our salah became beautiful. ثُمَّ إِنَّكِ تَعْلَمِينَ أَنَّهُ مُطَّلِعٌ عَلَيْكَ. And then you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything about you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows more than this imaginary person. وَلَا تَخْشَعِينَ لِعَظَمَتِهِ. And you're not being fearful of his greatness. You're not imagining his grandeur. You're not being aware that he's watching. So this is a shameful thing, really. That means, and he's going to tell us, I don't have to explain this. أَهُوَ تَعَالَى أَقَلُّ عِنْدَكِ مِنْ عَبْدٍ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala less in your eyes than a slave of Allah? So this is something we have to ask ourselves. Each one of us has to do this practice. We have to reprimand our own selves. He's talking about reprimanding our own selves. We don't reprimand each other. I can't come to you and say that, how dare you? That's not my right to do that to another person. But I can do that to my own nafs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created me and has put inside me my ruh, my nafs, my aqal. I can address them and I can speak to them. And this is something that I have to do in order for my nafs to allow me to be present in salah itself. So he's saying that, do you not feel shame? You fear a human being more than Allah? That is very sad. And we need to really talk to ourselves, have this self-talk, and really motivate ourselves to be present in salah. فَمَا أَشَدَّ طُغْيَانَكَ وَجَهْلَكَ. You're so transgressive. You're going so far beyond the boundaries, and your jahala and your the lack of understanding is so great then. وَمَا عَظَمَ عَدَاوَتِكَ لِنَفْسِكَ. And you're just going against yourself. At the end of the day, you're harming yourself. You're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in salah. If your mind is present, you will reap the rewards. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not increase in the least. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never decreases. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never increases. He is what is the epitome of perfection. And perfection means there's no increase and no decrease. He is absolutely perfect. So by us performing salah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't get anything from it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need our salah. We are ultimately harming ourselves when we do not perform that salah with consciousness. فَعَالِجْ قَلْبَكَ بِهَذِهِ الْحِيَلِ. So fix the situation of your heart through these means. So alhamdulillah, he's telling us very beautiful advices how to just speak to ourselves and fix these problems that we have, very deep-seated problems in ourselves, that when we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're just not there. Outside of salah, we have full concentration in all of our work, whether that is our actual jobs, whatever it may be, cooking, cleaning, writing, just searching the internet. If we're watching any kind of program, then we're fully attentive. But as soon as we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the heart begins to roam. We're standing and facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, facing the qibla, and the heart is just flying. The heart is just going everywhere. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us fix those problems. فَعَسَاهُ أَنْ يَحْضُرَ مَعَكَ فِي صَلَاتِكَ. So perhaps if you do these exercises, these spiritual exercises that he's talking about, talking to yourself, and don't think that you're going to become crazy if you talk to yourself. Talk to yourself. You're not crazy. If you want to do it out loud, do it out loud. We have narrations from the Sahaba, they used to do it. Every day, Abu Bakr is reported to have, people saw this, the Sahaba, and who is Abu Bakr? After the Anbiya alayhi salam, he's the greatest, he has the greatest station amongst all of mankind. He's the Siddiq of the entire Ummah. And no one can catch up to Abu Bakr radiallahu. And the second after Abu Bakr is Umar radiallahu. Even Umar radiallahu could not catch up to Abu Bakr radiallahu. Umar radiallahu wanted to trade all of his a'mal for one night of Abu Bakr. And that's how the maqam and station of Abu Bakr was. Abu Bakr is reported that people have seen him doing, he would hold his tongue in the mornings and he would speak to it. And so he would say that if you are straight and if you don't make any mistakes, the rest of the body won't make any mistakes. If you make a mistake, the rest of us are going to fall into error. So he would do these spiritual types of, these exercises. He would talk to himself. He would talk to his body. Now, which one of us has that much connection spiritually with our bodies that we can actually pinpoint specific eyes, ears, tongue, and speak to it, and then it starts to obey us? So this was his spiritual level. But I'm just saying that you're not crazy if you talk to your body. If someone comes and says, oh, look at this person, you're speaking out loud to your body parts, and then they're saying that, oh, you're crazy. Well, in the hereafter, I'm going to be having the last laugh, right? I'm the one that is trying to do islah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees my efforts, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause that and make that a means that other people are calling me crazy, but this will be a means of me getting closer to Allah, my body obeying me, obeying my mind and my ruh, and my nafs being, pushed down so that I can obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's saying that perhaps this will be a good means for you to be present in salah. فإنه ليس لك من صلاتك إلا ما عقلت منها. The reward that you get in salah is that which you are aware of. So if we're performing a very lengthy salah, but our minds are just not there, we only get a very, very small fraction of a reward. If our minds are present, then our reward is exponentially great. وأما ما أتيت به مع الغفلة فهو إلى الاستغفار والتكفير أحوج. That which you do in salah when you're ghafil, you're unaware, that requires a lot of istighfar. After the salah, that's why we say astaghfirullah, 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 because definitely there was some portions in the salah which we were not aware, in which we were not aware. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that training, give us tawfiq to speak to ourselves and not be ashamed of it, whether it's silently or out loud. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the presence of heart, just like we stand facing the Qibla and we're facing the correct way, unified together. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unify our hearts, all coming together to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is how we as a community will actually uplift ourselves and receive the mercy of Allah when all of our hearts are facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of that to accept us and forgive us and give us tawfiq to fully reap the benefits of the last few moments of Ramadan. وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.